I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it already feels like home.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford.
Hey, it's Mike. We've been doing this podcast not for very long, but we recognize that you may know Marty and Mike, but you may not know much about Marty and Mike. So we sat down recently to sort of interview each other and kind of give you a little glimpse into who we are and what makes us tick and what we might be doing with all this. And so, this episode kind of focuses on that. We hope you enjoy it. We may periodically go back and do this again just because we change and evolve as people. But this is where we've kind of started at with this podcast. And so, this episode of Feels Like Home is kind of dedicated to introducing you to us. So who the heck are you?
Well, my name is Marty Ford, and I'm a local guy. Grew up in Kingston, originally from Chillicothe, actually right around the corner from where you live.
Oh, that's right.
I grew up on Hickory Street for first 6-7 years of my life, and then we moved out of the county because my parents, my mom worked at Rubbermaid, my dad worked at RCA, and Kingston was the middle.
Yep.
So St. Trace graduate. This past year turned 50, so a new chapter of my life. And to kind of kick that chapter off in my life, both of my daughters have recently left the nest. So Jen and I, my wife, Jennifer, and I are empty nesters, and we're trying to navigate those new waters. So that's kind of fun. But grew up in Chillicothe, in the Chillicothe area. I've worked here, went to school here, and it's been one of those places where just always wanted to be around here because I loved it. So I'm a marketing manager for a local community bank, and have a lot of hobbies and kind of a busy guy, but I don't like to be idle. So I play guitar and sing and do some worship leading for our church. We attend the same church, so it's kind of funny how we kind of made it there in our life journey. Finally. So that, that's kind of me in a nutshell. That's kind of skimming across the top, but with my hobby, I love woodworking, and that's turned into a little side hustle that I do, making longboards, and that was kind of a marketing project with my youngest daughter, Caroline. It was like, "Hey, Dad, how do we start a business?" I don't know. Let's try. I've never started one, so let's jump in, and we got to have a name, we got to have a logo, we got to have an idea. Start there, and true entrepreneurship. So it's been kind of a fun little business to run on the side.
Yeah, I don't want to get all like inside the actor studio with you, like that rapid fire that they used to do at the end, and be like, if you were a fruit, what kind of fruit would you be? Like, we're not gonna do that, but I guess to me, you're a guy that I have looked at and said, that guy can do a lot of stuff. What is the one thing that? So I believe that most people gravitate toward what they have always enjoyed. So, for example, like my dad was never a craftsman, so I don't gravitate toward that. But my dad always had music playing in my house, so I love music. So, What's one thing that you think you do now that you've picked up on, or maybe you've developed as a hobby as an adult that you feel like it was influenced from you at a younger age?
Yeah, I think I find that I find peace and kind of recharge when I'm doing something with my hands. I love to build. I love woodworking. When I was a kid, my dad had a wood shop in the basement, and so anytime we were bored, it's like, okay, go hang out in the wood shop and make stuff. And I never really made anything that amounted to anything. I'm not a super patient person at times, and that's a craft that you really have to have patience. But as I've gotten older, I'm kind of gravitated back towards that because I've realized how much I enjoy it, and it calms me and making things and accomplishing something in small projects. So I think just the craftsman, I've always tried to be a creative person, I play a lot of music, and so there's an opportunity to be creative there. But I love creating gifts, so I'd love to make something to give to people. My mom always kind of had 3 rules of gift giving. It's got to be personal, made with love, and it's got to be for that specific person. And so I've kind of used that as a kind of a model for my creativity. So I think it'd be the kind of woodworking thing and what everything else that comes off of that. So I restored an old Volkswagen Bug with the help of my friend John Mark, and it was about doing something with my hands. As much as I enjoy computers and technology, that's still creating with your hands. So
when you reflect back, so I believe everybody they're an adult at 18, but after that, there's a part in time when you become an adult. And, like for me, I guess I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Maybe.
Do you feel like you've had an age or an era in there where you really like, okay, now I'm an adult, I got to start acting like an adult, or I'm an adult because now I do this? And can you describe or talk a little bit about that?
I think I'm probably in a similar boat where I feel like I've never reached that point. But when I look back, I think I have multiple moments in my life where I grew up a lot. And I look back, my mom passed away, and it's a little over 10 years ago now. And in that moment, like that specific moment, I grew up a lot. And just the news of her passing and the decisions that had to be made and all those other things that come along with the passing of a parent, and that I know you've dealt with recently. But I really felt like at that time was when I really grew up. It's when I felt like maybe I matured for the first time in years, where I came out the other end and I recognized it for the first time.
Yeah.
So I would kind of have to look back at that, at that moment.
So obviously you're a father.
Yes.
What's the hardest part of being a parent?
The hardest part about being a parent right now that I'm looking at is parenting adults.
Yeah.
So I've got a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old, and both are living, far away from home. One's in college and one is trying to find her first career. And those problems are so different than the problems that they had when they were teenagers or even toddlers, right? So I think the hardest, you realize, I thought at some point I wouldn't be a parent anymore, because my kids would get older, but they're always your kids no matter what age they hit. And I'm realizing that now. And it's much harder to parent an adult than it is a kid. Not that, parenting a kid was easy, but I just find that, man, the problems are so different as an adult or as a young adult trying to get, through college and figure out your first career. Those are tough parenting moments.
Yeah. We're both fortunate enough to have people in our lives that love us, and in both cases married us in spite of ourselves.
Look past all of our faults.
And even the ones that we developed as we grew together, right?
That's right.
What's the when you look at your marriage, like what's the one thing that you feel like you and Jen are very much partners on, that you very much enjoy? I don't know if it's enjoy, but you're in lockstep and you can focus on the one thing together because you're really in sync on this thing.
I believe we parent together really well. Like that we don't usually find ourselves on opposite sides, where we have Caroline or Maddie coming to us. They come to Dad because Dad always lets me do that.
Right.
I feel like we have each other's back from a parenting role standpoint, and we do that really well. I mean, we're fortunate, and it's not over yet, knock on wood. like we have never had those big,
like a face-off event, right?
Yeah,
like you're on one side, she's on the other.
Oh gosh, we've been so fortunate where we have a problem or an issue, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm on your mom's side about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that together we've been fortunate that we've been able to do a good job. And I think because we work so well together as parents, probably a lot better than we do as spouses with each other.
Yeah.
That we've been able to get our kids through some pretty big things, and hopefully be a good example for them in how you handle problems and how you deal with life issues and how you carry yourself in public and all those things that come with those issues and problems.
Yeah. We both are people that are on second careers. And we're not like 20 somethings that are on our second career at like 25. We're, 50 and 52. And we recently, over the last 5 years, left a long-term job that we had to go to a different career. How long before, from the time that you said, I really need to find another job, until you actually pulled the trigger and made the change, did it take? And what do you think drew you to the other job?
So that's a great question.
Because I can tell you for me.
It was probably a 5-year journey. When you're at some place, as long as we both were,
yeah,
at one position or like one company, there's a comfort level that comes with that. And then on the opposite side, there's a fear that comes with like the warning of the grass isn't always greener on the other side, because we've witnessed it and seen it so many times. So I think that changing, it was about a 5-year process. The closer I got to that change, the more aggressive I got in searching for something different.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I should probably look at something else. Maybe my time here is done. Don't get me wrong. The company I worked for was great.
Sure.
They took very good care of me. We didn't leave on bad terms.
It was a very familiar environment there as a family business.
Yeah, definitely. And so it was a beautiful place to be, but felt like what I was doing was not truly who I was.
Yeah.
And so finding happiness in like the day-to-day operation of what I did as a job was pretty hard. And so when I made the change, when I finally made the decision, it was funny. It was easy to see that it was the correct one. It was just doors opened at the perfect time, made every decision, every obstacle to making that decision just disappeared. And they made it very easy for me. And I haven't looked back. It was great.
Yeah. I know that your faith is very, very important to you. It is the center of what you do. But I think a lot of people mistake faith for folks that are willing to use it as a battering ram. And I know that that's not a person that you are. How has your faith shaped you as a person, like just dealing in a work setting, in a community setting? Because I know who you are from the church perspective. You're leading worship on a regular basis, but even when you're not leading worship, I know that you're worshiping. Yeah. So I guess, the other part of worshiping is being who you are in the community and at work. And I think it's a really interesting thing sometimes to talk about how people's faith reflects off of them at work or in the community. So I would wonder your answer on that.
Yeah. So I think that, and like my journey is not like anybody else's, right? We all have our own journey, and I was kind of late coming to the faith. It's not that I never felt like I was there. As a late teen, early 20 something, was going to church, doing those things. But I hit 30 years old and started finding things that, that met with Jesus's journey, his own journey. And it was like I finally woke up at 30 and said, okay, I'm doing things wrong. And it's not that I wasn't a nice guy, or there was just something different that I felt like I needed to do that I wasn't doing. And then putting that, it's real easy to be a guy of faith at church, right?
Yeah.
It's the perfect environment for you and showing kindness there. I think it's been a different thing just to realize how important, and even more important, it is, outside of that in your daily life. And like you said, reflecting those values. And I'll be the first to admit that, man, it still struggle with that.
Yeah.
I definitely haven't done it right. I've definitely made a lot of errors that, that I feel like I've leaned on the grace way more than I should have. But you get to a point where you find it pays off, and you want your faith to be genuine for people to see, because that's really the only way somebody in today's world you make an impact on somebody, because there's so many people out there, like you said, like the battering rams, and it's so different. Opposite side of this. I mean, like the middle, the gray area in the middle is almost gone, and it's these extremes left and right, and trying to be a guy who wants to be in the middle, because he feels like that's where he belongs and is called to be. That makes it hard.
What would you consider your favorite movie?
Oh gosh, man. So I'm a guy that, have you ever watched the movie High Fidelity?
Yes.
And you know how he like he breaks the
breaks the wall. Yep.
And starts like giving his lists, top 5 songs at a funeral, right? So I've been famous for top 5 lists of things, and so I really connected with that movie, which that movie would probably land in my top 10, 15 someplace. I'm in the Goonies camp, man.
Okay.
I'm an 80s kid.
I did not see this coming.
I'm an 80s kid, and Goonies is one of my favorite all-time movies. And it's funny, there was a Princess Bride group at work, and back at Horizon, and there was a group that were like, Princess Bride is the best, and there was a group of us that were like, Goonies is one of the best. So I love Goonies, and those, like the top 5 move around, right, depending on my mood, and so it's like to put number one is tough, but I have to go back to some great 80s movies. Back to the original Back to the Future, fantastic. I love Star Wars. I mean, I was really young when the first one came out, but just the whole series has been fantastic. And there are people who complain about the new movies that come out,
right?
But I'm just like, I never thought I'd get a Han Solo movie. Are you kidding me?
Right? Yeah,
that movie could have sucked. And some people say that it did.
Right.
It didn't matter. Han Solo was the man when I was 8 years old. And the fact that I got a movie, as an adult completely about him, his origin story, fantastic. So those are all favorites. But man, Back to the Future, the Goonies, they're way up there. I love the slapstick comedy. I love the storylines, the adventure. And then there's some, pretty serious movies on that list too. But usually my go-to is Goonies.
Yeah, nice.
Which always surprises people.
Yeah, no, that 100%. I did not see that coming.
Citizen Kane, that's my favorite.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a lot of similar tastes in music, but what are some bands or some artists that you're kind of really into right now that might be a little bit newer, or maybe they're new to you? So what do you listen to right now?
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm a worship leader, and so I do spend a lot of time exploring new music for the church, and really looking for diverse music. With all the things that happened in the last year, just understanding the importance it is for me to learn and grow. I really went on search for more diverse music. So I'm heavily into Maverick City.
By the way, thanks for that, because when you started playing it, I started listening to it. So,
and it's some really good stuff.
Yeah.
Now I get used to like 12-minute songs,
right?
Because there's a lot of ad-lib that go on, but just the basis of the song, they're real strong. Really enjoying that. On the flip side, like our buddy Corey Breath,
Yeah.
this record is so good.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm so proud of him for it, and so it's been on my playlist. I actually ordered the vinyl today, so he's kind of pushing it on his Instagram stories. So I ordered that. I'm still into Need to Breathe. It's one of my favorite bands. Ben Rector, which is just a great pop guy. Really, Johnny Swim, which we've seen in concert.
Did you know 4 years ago tonight, I saw Johnny Swim for the first time with you at Newport Music Hall.
Yeah, man.
So
what a great show too.
Yep.
Yeah, we were.
And I remember going and not really knowing who the heck I was going to see.
I just told you need to go.
Yeah.
You need to go.
And we went, and I was blown away.
Yeah. Just great vocals.
Yeah.
Neat story. And the things that they've been doing during the pandemic through their Instagram channel has been fantastic.
Yeah. Which, when you guys listen to this, it will mean nothing to you about when we recorded it.
Right.
So you can ignore all that. It was just interesting. It happened to pop up on my Snapchat story today. So
yeah, it was great. I had a video that I'd posted, and it was probably the same moment that you sent me a picture of.
Yeah.
So yeah, great stuff. I'm still kind of leading into those people, which Wilder Woods.
Mm-hmm.
I really got into Bear Reinhardt's solo project, Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors. So some old standbys, but not that they're old, but I've been listening to them for a while. Their new stuff is all really good, and I've kind of been trapped in that. There actually some great stuff that I've been listening to thanks to Apple Music and just like catering to some music to me that I probably couldn't tell you who it was. That I have to go back and look at the list. But yeah, there's a lot of some really good independent stuff out there right now.
Yeah. You're not much of a TV guy, are you?
Not so much. I do watch some Netflix, some Disney Plus, but outside of that, most of my TV watching is sports.
Yeah. See, I'm a TV watcher, so like I consume a lot on Netflix, on just about everything. I got a Peacock subscription, so I could continue to watch The Office forever.
Since Netflix took it away from you.
So I always end any interview with the what did I not ask you that I should have?
What did you?
What's something that we should have talked about that we didn't?
Oh gosh. Something we should have talked about but we didn't. Gosh, that's a tough one.
Maybe there's nothing. I don't know.
I mean, we touch on a lot of subjects when we have conversations. Maybe maybe how I'm dealing with being an empty nester.
Yeah, that is a good one. And here's the other thing. You're an empty nester and you turn 50 in the same year.
Which is pretty young to be an empty nester,
100%. I'll never have the joy of knowing that for the most part. Or when I do, I'll be so stinking old it won't even matter.
That's funny.
So what is it like being an empty nester?
Well, try turning 50, being an empty nester during a pandemic. So it's like the perfect storm, man. There's great things about it. Like Jen and I, we kind of enjoy this time of getting to catch up because we were so dedicated to be parents. And in the midst of kids growing up, I was involved in a band that was very busy, and we served at a church for 13 years, and there's a lot of things going on. So we lived a very busy life chasing kids around soccer. So all of that leaves pretty much at once. And we sit around and we talk about when we're going to get to go out to Colorado to visit the kids,
right.
And what Jen wants to do to the house now. And so my honey-do list is growing, but it's been an interesting time, and some people dread it. I think we dreaded it, and now that we find ourselves here, we're learning to deal with it and make the best use of our time. we do miss our kids though. You know, they were home for a few weeks around Christmas, and it was so good. And we just took advantage of it. We played board games at night, and we'd stand around in the kitchen, snacking on things and just catching up on life. And like, tell us what's going on in your life. What are you dealing with, and what are you having fun, and what are you enjoying? And so I think we're making the best of it. But it's definitely an interesting change.
Yeah, we should rent ourselves out as people that could if you're a girl dad, you can just come to us and say, hey, this thing happened. Is this normal?
That's right.
Because when I've got 4 of them, you've got 2 of them.
Yeah.
We should be able to answer about any question.
Yeah. I get that question a lot though, about being a girl dad.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, a guy across the hall from me at work, Luke, he was, you know, a year and a half back, he was getting ready to have a baby, and it's like, boy, girl, you know, what do you think? And when they found out they were having a girl, they didn't really tell anybody, but he was like, so what's it like being a girl dad? And I was like, it's actually great.
Yeah.
I thought I always wanted a boy, and it would have been great if I had a boy, but man, you just, you know, they still have your personality, you know, pieces of you and pieces of Jen that are just interesting to discover on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But girls are definitely a different animal, and you got walk. So
yeah. So we can just get into trouble together a lot,
and,
essentially.
And so that was Caroline and I.
Right.
So, you know, Caroline became, you know, not that she's a tom. Well, both of my kids were tomboys. They both loved to play soccer. They're real active, and you know, we go longboarding together and do lots of those kind of things. They like to adventure, they like to hike. You know, we do those things together. But so it was great being a girl dad.
Yeah,
I wouldn't change it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm done.
So, Mike, how did you make it to Chillicothe? I mean, I kind of know the story because we've done so much life together. But how did you get here?
Yeah, so it was really kind of happenstance, really, for me. I'm originally from Sandusky, grew up there. I actually grew up in a little town called Castalia, which is just outside of Sandusky. It was a little high school. My graduating class at the time was just over 100, and it was the biggest graduating class that we ever had. So like it was a big deal. And so I grew up there and went to college at Bowling Green. I went to school for 2 years at like a branch, took 2 years off, and then went to main campus for 2.5 years, and then graduated. So I was literally 22 when I got out, 23, almost 23 when I got out, and had no job, and I wanted to be a journalist, and so I cleaned pools for an entire summer at a hotel. And picked up after people. And, you know, Sandusky is a big resort town because of Cedar Point. So they're all on vacation. And there was a lot of people, all the time. And so I got a call from a friend of mine. We played softball together on a church league team. And he called me up one day and said, he was a photographer at the local newspaper. And he said, look, we've got this job open. I'm not going to promise you that it's fun. In fact, it's a tough job. But it gets your foot in the door and you can do whatever you want from there. So I applied, got the job. It was everything he said it was going to be. It was very, very hard. I covered like 2 counties and like 3 cities and all these different school boards. And I was just running all day long. And filed my stories on a little Tandy computer that had the dial-up internet.
Yeah.
And so from there, I was in that gig for about 5 years. I moved up to the ranks and got to the main office, and then I started kind of wanting to be an editor. I'd watched editors do it. I developed a sort of thought process as to what I could do if I was going to be an editor, and I just started trying to talk to my bosses about, you know, hey, how do I do this? Well, none of those people were leaving anytime soon, so I just started looking and just started talking and applying and things like that. And I actually went to a Cleveland Indians baseball game with a female reporter. We were both big baseball fans, and she had just moved from Chillicothe to Sandusky to work in one of our bureaus. And so, we had hung out and done things together. And so we went to this game, and she said, "Hey, are you making any progress on getting to be an editor?" I said, "Nah, kind of capped out here." And she's like, "You know what you ought to do? You ought to interview for this job that they called me about in Chillicothe. I'm not going to do it, but you should, because you'd love it down there. It's a great news town. It's a great town. You'll just really love it." And so it was really the only option that I had at that point. So I applied. She gave me a recommendation. And, a week later, I was down interviewing. 3 days after that, I had an offer. And less than 2 weeks later, I was moving into the apartment, which I couldn't hit it with a baseball from here, but I lived in the apartments up here at the top of the hill. And so that's how I got here. And I was actually dating my first wife at the time, and she lived in Dayton, but her parents lived here because her dad was head of finance at the paper mill.
Okay.
So, you talked earlier about how like things just converge and they just make it look real clear. It looked incredibly clear. And so when I came here, she moved in with her parents. I moved in up there, and we got married a year later. So, it was just really, everything felt ordained at that point, right? Like there's something bigger making all these things happen. So that's how I got here. And I honestly thought, 3 to 5 years I'll be gone. Journalists are pretty transient that way. Sure. We don't stay around for very, very long. It's 23 years now, almost 24. So, but it was an opportunity born of opportunity, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Did you always want to be a journalist? Like, when did you discover that you wanted to go to journalism?
Yeah. So I was 10 years old, and I would have been 12.
Okay.
In my 6th grade homeroom class, we did like a career thing, right? And there were all these different people. Like we weren't at the point where people came in; they were just talking about future careers. And I remember them saying, "Journalists do this," and it was mostly like, "Go, write stories." And I was like, "Do they write stories about sports?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, some people do. They actually go to the games, and they watch the game, and then they write a story about it." I was like, "Wait a minute. You could get paid to go to sporting events?" Like, to me, I'm a baseball guy. I could go to baseball games and get paid. Wait, they pay people to do that? And I was in. So I went home and told I went home and told my mom that I wanted to be a journalist. My mom never graduated high school. So she had to go she looked it up in the dictionary to find out what it was. And then she would never let me consider anything else, because to me that was like the first love, right?
Sure.
So that's what we were doing.
What was there ever like a plan B? Like, was there something like you always have dreams, right? So what did you dream about doing?
So the dream of being a journalist and the practical what happened, the nuts and bolts of it are two different things,
sure,
right?
Right.
So when I was in college, I was actually stringing for some papers and doing things, and it was a little mundane. I was going to a lot of, no offense to county commissioners, but going to a lot of county commissioners meetings and other meetings like that. I wasn't covering, political races and car crashes and,
right.
I wasn't at the Super Bowl,
right.
So like it was kind of mundane. And so I started to gravitate more toward film writing and screenwriting. And actually my degree is actually not in journalism, it's in popular culture, because I wanted to study how culture influenced the films that got made. And to me, that was the link to being a screenwriter, was to watch culture and write about culture. So for example, when you look at a lot of Westerns that were done in like the 50s, everything that we were doing in the 50s was sort of tumultuous, right? So a lot of it is the push and pull between good and evil, because this is, as the Cold War is starting to really ramp up in the 60s, we're getting a lot of these. So that's how culture reflects, or film reflects culture. So I graduated from college, and, again, that summer cleaning pools taught you that you like to eat. So if you like to eat, then maybe you better find a job. So I kind of went back to the journalism thing, but I kind of knew when I did that, like, I never really gave screenwriting a real shot. I always wanted to be a journalist.
I thought you were going to tell me that, well, you had a dream of Major League Baseball or the NBA or,
Well, you know me, Marty. I'm not a guy that would ever have a dream of the NBA. Muggsy Bogues fulfilled that dream for guys like me a long time ago. So
that's great. So you're in Chillicothe. You find yourself here. You put down roots, started a family. At what point did you realize like you were going to be here a while? Like you said, usually it's 3 to 5 years and you move on.
Yeah.
Like at what moment did you realize, okay, I'm in it for the long haul here?
Yeah. So I very much, I had opportunities to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But so my first wife and I got divorced, in 98 and, in 2003. And so, we got married in 98. That was weird. And so I knew, I had 2 little girls, and so I wanted to be a dad. Mm-hmm. And so that was one, and I went through this self-exploration of figuring out some things about me and what went into my divorce. And to me, I was going away from being a selfish person and being more of a caring person. So if that's the case, being a part-time dad is really hard. So if you're going to be caring, you got to be there, right? So I think in realistically speaking, that's when it happened.
Okay.
But I think that was born out of wanting to be a father and be a good one. Career-wise, it would have been 5-6 years ago now. Well, longer than that, probably like 8 years ago now. The company that I worked for essentially zero-based everything of what we did in news and said, okay, everybody's got to interview for their jobs. And there were a variety of jobs that were new titles and new things like that, where you could be a regional person and, influence the news content over the whole group. You could be a site editor and be very, I think they called them community editors. And I looked at all that slate of things and I said, I really don't want to be anywhere but Chillicothe. And so I my boss at the time was, I think, a little put out that I didn't want to aspire to being at the corporate, level or the regional level. To the point where when you had to put down 3 things that you wanted to interview for. And the first one was community editor for me. The second was like a regional job that I had no reason to even want. And then the third one was a sports writer, because I was tanking on purpose because I knew what I wanted,
right? So you're stacking the deck.
So in reality, that's when I knew really the only place that I want to be is Chillicothe. And even when a couple of years later, they made me the editor over both Chillicothe and Lancaster, I never got over in Lancaster because I was committed to Chillicothe. I lived here. Mm-hmm. I knew it better. I think I was growing in that role, but really it was just too hard, Yeah. So
I remember talking to you on the phone a few times when you were in transit to Lancaster or coming back from Lancaster, and I could just hear it in your voice how
it was exhausting.
How hard that
and
was.
not for any other reason than, it's just like anything else. When you go to a different place, you've got to be fully invested in the place, and you couldn't do it, And so, they did not see me at the football game and shopping for groceries or at church or, on a soccer field as my kids were playing or whatever. So their thought process of me was, well, he's not invested here, So, and I get it. I mean, it's the fundamental problem with a lot of what we're trying to do in journalism today is we're trying to spread people out when really journalism and community is very focused.
Right.
And so to me, it was just it was not a recipe for me to feel fulfilled. And that's why I had to leave.
Yeah, I understand. So when you interviewed for the job at the chamber, like, how did that happen, and how did that come about? Is it, I guess, to share a little bit of that story, because I mean, I kind of got to live that with you a little bit, and got a nice view of, like, you were going through that, and I was going through my change at the same time. So it was super interesting to see how that played out for you.
Yeah, so it goes back to the holiday before. So I always took a few days off around the holiday, and my wife and I spend that time talking about things that we're going to do the next year. And it's usually very light, right? Hey, we're going to go here for vacation, or let's do this on the house this year, or, we're probably going to need to get a new car or whatever, right? Now, that's light compared to what I'm about to tell you. She looked at me and said, you need to find a new job. And that was like a punch in the face. And I was a little PO'd about it, to be quite honest with you. Journalism is all I'd ever known. At the time, it was 20 plus years. And I was like, well, what the heck am I going to do then? And so I kind of went away from it. But the more that I, how it is, you get mad at what they say, and then you walk away and you're like, yeah, they're kind of right.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. But even then, I didn't. It was like what you were saying. Like, I wasn't fully into this process.
Right.
So
there's some fear there. So.
Yeah. So I had started to take little gigs here and there, technical writing for people. I had a friend of mine that owned a company, and they wanted me to do some writing for their website, make it look a little better. I wasn't going to, from a verbal perspective, and make some recommendations. I was actually, when the chamber, I heard about the chamber job coming open, I was actually sitting at a lunch with somebody to give them the document that I had done for them. And I had gotten a call later that day from another guy who said, hey, you could write blogs for my insurance site that will sound a lot better than these pieces of crap.
Yeah.
So and so when I sat down to lunch with that person, I said, well, this chamber job is going to come open. I'm going to take a run at that. And he just pushed everything aside. He said, well, that's the job you need. And, he lives here. And so to me, it was sort of an affirmation. And so, we sat down, Kelsey and I sat down. That's my wife. I don't think I mentioned her. So Kelsey and I sat down, and we said, okay, because I had actually interviewed for that same job 5 years earlier and didn't get it. And it was a little bit of a blow, because it was literally at the same time as when I told you earlier, we were all interviewing for our jobs back. So really, that was my second choice on that list of three. It was like community editor, a job completely out of journalism, and then these two jobs that I know I'm not going to want, So, when we sat down, I said, okay, we know people on the search team, so we're going to work that angle, but we're also going to go to the table with something. And so, we treated it almost like a political campaign, where we sat down and we developed a strategy, and we developed a theme and a message. And I walked into that meeting, my first interview with them, and I had a book under one hand, Building a Vibrant Community by Quint Studer, and I had a notepad in the other, things that I would jot down and questions that I wanted to ask them. And then, according to a couple people that were in the room, just blew them away with the fact that I just wasn't going to take no for an answer on this job. And, even when I walked out, I thought I did really well, but I also thought I did fairly well before and didn't get it. So to me, it was like, this is not in the bag. I wonder where this is going to go from here. But I was incredibly fortunate to get the job. And I have spent the last 3 years or 2+ years now, just being grateful for the opportunity that I have and trying to, make it better.
Yeah, I remember when I heard that job was coming open. I remember texting you. I was like, "Hey man, the chamber job's opening up," and you were like, "Bro, I'm already on it."
Yeah,
like you were chasing that.
Oh
down.
yeah, I think we were probably in our war room at that point.
Yeah.
Really strategizing because I know Kels really wanted that for me. She knew I needed a change. It was just such a tough environment to be in journalism anymore. It was getting tougher. This is in like 2016, 2017. And then we had this conversation going into 2018. So she had seen 2 years of toll,
right?
Because that was, it was right before the 2016 election when I got handed, when they cut the position in Lancaster and said, now you're over both. So literally I have to go in and run an election night with like 2 months. And then, from there, I mean, it was just such a different world, so it was just really hard to do that. I think she wanted to still have a husband around because she didn't want to raise all those kids by herself. And then I think she just knew that like, if I could really channel my energies in Chillicothe, I would be so much happier and better off,
Yeah. I was so happy for you when they announced that you were getting that position, because I already had seen, when we talked about ideas that you would have, like we'd been kind of tossing things around for a while, and I was like, man, it's great that you're getting the opportunity. So it's really worked out, and I'm proud of you for that. So,
Thanks.
Yeah. So going back to the family, you mentioned like Kelsey it would be nice to have somebody around to help raise these kids. Like, what is the best thing about being a dad for you?
I think what's really interesting to me is how different but also similar all 5 of my kids are. So like I look at Grace. Grace is like, she's my 21-year-old. I should be 21 in June. And she is the life of the party. She is the, the one that I send memes to, and she sends them back. And we argue on Snapchat together and things like that. Liza, is a little bit more serious, but like super sneaky funny, and has evolved into this amazing young lady. And then, I've got this big gap. I've got a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old. I got my son in the middle. He's 10, super smart kid, but has a little bit of his dad in him where if he's not challenged, he gets bored real easy. Mm-hmm. And then Jules, who's my 7-year-old, is just like Kelsey, but her personality is so big and so bold that there's, you saw it when I just got a FaceTime here like a little bit ago. Like she's calling me to tattle on her mom about not giving her a snack, and then I got Lucy, who is a lot like Walker and Liza. And, we have daddy day on Wednesday. And I mean, like, it's just the greatest day because we just do stuff that nobody else does,
Right.
So I love the fact that I've got these 5 kids. And again, like if you'd have said 25, 30 years ago, you're going to have 5 kids someday, I would have said you were insane. And even when I got remarried again, I thought, okay, I'll have 1, maybe 2 kids because my wife is younger than me and I didn't want to rob her of the ability of being a mom to her own children. She's a great stepmom. She doesn't treat them any differently. But I knew she wanted kids of her own. And so we had the first one kind of came quickly. And then the second one, we were like, okay, we're in for this. And then the third one was like, even, was kind of quick too. So we were like, I told her, I was like, look, 5's enough for me. I'm done. Like, but I love just enjoying my kids for who they are. And you were saying about, raising adults now, the dichotomy of raising adults and raising little ones, like little ones at the same time, is super interesting most of the time and downright frustrating some of the time. So
I knew you'd feel me when I was talking about parenting adults. It's tough, man.
Yeah. The toughest thing for me was Grace really never dated anybody much in high school. So when she got a boyfriend in college, I was like, well, who's this dude? You know, like I don't need a dude around here. Like dudes are trouble. They're no.
That's funny. So the difference that I have is I've not had a boy.
Right.
So my daughters have a boyfriend, and we instantly connect.
Right.
Because I've not had the son. Right.
Yeah.
And so like the whole son-in-law thing, I just really I've connected with their boyfriends, and we get really, really close, which might hurt when the breakup time comes. Right.
Yeah. That could leave a mark.
Yeah. So that's funny. So, going back to, well, I don't want to go back to the job, but you've been in this position a little over 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
I'm in almost to my third year. I'll be 3 years in December.
December.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I thought it was right before right at the end of the year. So, we've had an opportunity to do a lot.
Yeah.
In that short period of time. Like, is there something that you're super proud of? That you've had the opportunity to do in that position as the president of the chamber?
Yeah, I would say that the opportunity to bring Quint Studer to town and have him sort of help us kickstart the sort of second phase of what we think is the revitalization of the town is really, really important to me. You know, I mentioned the book earlier.
Right.
I stumbled into that book. He wrote a column that his publicist sent to us, and I was getting ready to go on vacation. And, you know, I've said this a billion times, but like journalists don't read on vacation, or editors don't, you know, like it's just, you read every day for a living, especially in my role where you're having to edit every piece of copy and things like that. Like, it's just not fun to read.
Right.
So when Kelsey sent me a note and said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to order books. Like, what do you want?" I really didn't want to reply. And then I just said, "Well, here, there's this book that this guy wrote. I'm kind of intrigued by it, so just get it. I probably won't even read it." And then I read it 3 times through.
Wow.
So like in like 5 days. So, so when I started thinking about like, how do I get, like, my end game was like, how do I get Quint here? And so I reached out to them thinking that they were going to tell me some number to bring him to town that was just going to be astronomical, and I could never afford it in a million years. And so when they said to us, "Well, look, we don't ever want to not go to a place because of money. So if we need to work out a deal to get a number that works for you, we will do it." And then I was lucky enough to have people come around me and say, you know, I just basically went to a bunch of people and said, "Look, this is what I'm trying to do. This is the guy that I think can help us get us there. And here's what it's going to take. Can I count on you for X amount of dollars?" And I didn't have a single person say no.
Wow.
And so the number that we paid to get him, which actually included some travel and things like that, every bit of that was covered. And then, it was awesome. It was great. It was actually 1 year ago today. So great things happen on March 10th, Marty.
That's right.
So
pandemic start.
Yeah, that, and then a week later, we're all holed up and never coming out again. So, it's delayed things, but I'm a person that, believes in a dream delayed is still a dream. So, we're gonna fire up the machine and start, working toward these things again this year. So.
Yeah, that's really exciting to see. I mean, even through the pandemic, we had some really exciting things happen.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, listen. If you would have told me that we could still have the occupancy that we have downtown, or even throughout the county for that matter, I would have probably said, "Nah, I don't think that's going to happen." But there's some resilient people in Chillicothe, and I think they're really, I've said this a million times, but like, they're in it for the long haul. They're not, they don't want to let their dreams die, and they don't want, because they know how important it is, not only to them, but to an entire city and an entire county, and that's important.
So knowing that you're a baseball guy,
yeah,
and we share that, because I mean, my plan A was to play Major League Baseball. My plan B was to do anything other than that, right? So,
well, the world was open at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure I've ever asked you this question. How did you become a Mets fan?
So the answer to the question is Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden.
Okay, yeah, I mean. That would have been my guess if I had to guess why you were?
Yeah. So I was a baseball fan of just baseball, and I know people like this now, and it confuses me. But I was once like that in my younger years. Those when you really start to get into it, 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. My dad was a Yankees fan. The Yankees were exceptionally good at that point in time. It felt icky to be a Yankees fan.
Yep.
And we were the closest teams to us were the Tigers and the Indians. Well, the Indians were historically bad. The Tigers kind of vacillated, but even then, like they were a little bit further away. And so I was just sort of a baseball fan. And then I remember in like 83 or so, you started hearing about Gooden and Strawberry. And I remember seeing because again, not these games weren't always on TV. So if you got Monday Night Baseball or you got Saturday afternoon baseball or you got the regional game, because the Indians games were on Channel 43 back then. And so if you got a game and you got to see the LA Dodgers, it was a big deal.
Right.
So I remember seeing Gooden pitch, and I thought, my goodness, this is a guy I can get behind. Like, he's something. And then Strawberry was kind of the same way, but they really didn't have it all together until like 85, 86, of course. And then it just kind of became an obsession. And now I have buddies from all over the country that we text and send messages to each other. Like, my phone was blowing up today about one of their pitchers that they just got that has shoulder soreness, and all these people are freaking out. And, so like, yeah, I became a Mets fan just because I liked some young players that they had. And then now it's just this, it's the business that I've chosen. So I stay with it,
Yeah. Baseball is in the 80s. We had some great characters,
Yeah.
right? And you can say that about every era, but man, we had some great characters on the field in the 80s.
Well, my favorite player from those Mets teams was Gary Carter, and he's, they called him the Kid, and he had this effervescence about him. Even when he was an older player, he was incredibly appreciative to come to the park every day. And that's kind of the way I always felt when I played, was like, I was just so super happy to be at the plate in the field and getting to play a game that I really enjoyed. I wasn't great at it, but I enjoyed it, so it always made a mark on me that, like the guys that love the game,
Yeah. It makes it easy to root for them. And I grew up a Reds fan.
Yeah.
My grandmother every day listened to WLW on the radio and, caught the Reds game. So I didn't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
And it's still the same. And like, baseball is one of those, it's a national pastime for a reason. It's a beautiful game. And it's funny when I run into people who don't understand it.
Yeah.
I have a friend who loves to make fun of it. He's just like, I can't, it's so boring. I can't get into it. I'd rather watch soccer or football or anything else. I'm like, listen, I can watch all those other sports. But man, there's just something like, there is drama in baseball like very few other sports.
Well, and when you get to these playoff games where they take like 4 hours to play, like I could see people being upset about that. But man, I am riveted.
Yeah.
From minute one, I'm in.
Yeah, and just like stories like you go back, like Michael Lorenzen.
Yeah.
His dad passes away. He gets the pinch hit in a game the day his dad died, and he hit a home run.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make that up.
Yeah.
You can't write those stories. They only write themselves through the sport. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree.
Yeah. So, you asked me the music question, and I know that we have this connection through music. We both love music. Your dad, sharing music in the house.
Yeah.
My dad, mom and dad both. I have a unique love for music because my parents listen to completely opposite things.
Yeah, me too.
My dad is a Southern rock guy, and so I Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and all of that from my dad's side. Even like Southern rock, Molly Hatchet,
awesome.
those kind of things. And my mom was like, you need to know who Sam Cooke is.
Yeah.
You need to listen to Otis Redding. And she loved old R&B soul stuff. And then my grandparents, jazz. And so I grew up. So you asked me what I was listening to. We like to share lots of music. What are you listening to now?
Yeah. So two bands that I've really been into the last year. One is called The Lone Bellow.
Oh, yeah. saw them at Red Rocks.
Man, I'll tell you what. And I think, and I won't get too maudlin on you here, but the album came out like kind of as the pandemic was hitting. And so I'd go on these long walks and I'd listen to the entire album. I wouldn't come back home until the entire album was over. And so I listened to that album probably more than any other album last year.
Wow. It's a good one.
But man, and it's an album born out of suffering. The guy readily admits he had a death in his family and he's working through it. And so a lot of the songs are about the theme of, letting go and, capitalizing on the moments that you have and things like that. So it became incredibly important to me when my mom passed away in 2019. My dad passed away at the end of last year. So it's really been meaningful to me. And then another band that I love, and there's no other reason than I just think they're the grooviest freaking band out there, is Black Pumas.
Oh.
They are tremendous. I mean, I can listen to them nonstop. And it was actually funny, right as the pandemic was hitting, is about the time I started hearing these guys. And so, of course, I go to computer, type in, shows. They're going to be in Cincinnati, April 28th. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Right.
So, I am anxious to see them when they come out.
I still have Penny and Sparrow tickets.
Yeah, right.
Last year.
Yeah, so they're another one that I've been really into. I still, we share an enjoyment of worship music. I really like House Fires. I love them. Pat Barrett,
Yep.
And just really, really been into them a lot over the last couple of years. But my standbys. I'm a huge Springsteen fan. I've seen him over, a dozen times now. I'm hopeful that we'll get to see him again. I mean, he's not getting any younger.
Right.
And I vacillate between some bands here and there, but I really enjoy. I grew up. What you mentioned. My dad was very much an old country guy, so a lot of Hank Williams Sr.
Oh, wow.
A lot of he was a big Chris Christopherson fan. Glenn Campbell. I still listen to Glenn Campbell almost every weekend. I'll put on his hits. Rhinestone Cowboy is one of my favorite songs of all time. So if I ever do karaoke, I'll probably do that song.
That's great.
So, and then my mom actually enjoyed a lot of the Drifters and the Coasters and things like that. And so that led me to people like Sam Cooke and Marvin Gaye and things like that. So, I've just really, I've been blessed. I was blessed that I had friends of mine that loved hard rock, but then I had this other group of friends that kind of liked R&B and even rap as it started to evolve. I was the only guy that I knew that liked U2 when they first came out. And so that love has continued on, even though I have friends of mine that love to rip me about it because they're such a commercial band now and all this stuff. But, of course, we went and saw them in Pittsburgh. And
fantastic.
It is absolutely a moment that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life because I was just really glad that I got to see him. So it's pretty varied, varied taste.
But I think that's important, though. I think it's important to listen to different things.
Oh, there's another band that I started listening to in late 19 called the Magic City Hippies. They're like DJs.
Yeah.
But it's not really much of what I would normally listen to, but the beat's pretty groovy. It's kind of funky. I like a lot of funk stuff even today, a lot of the stuff that's coming out. I was always a blues guy. I love Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I think, a lot of those things, I'll get into a jag for a while where I just listen to blues or just listen to jazz or whatever, but eventually I get around to them all.
Yeah, that's good. So who's left on your bucket list of concerts to see live? Because once the pandemic's over, we got to start.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I said Black Pumas, and I totally mean that. I don't know if he's ever going to go out again, but Clapton is a guy that I never got to see that I'd really like to see before he's done playing. And I know every time you do every time they do one, it's like this is our last one. So if it's truly the last one, I feel like it's my my last one. I'm probably going to have to go. Foo Fighters is on that list.
Yeah.
I've not had an opportunity to see them live yet.
But the fact that they just put out a new album tells me that there's probably a tour coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like I'm pretty psyched about that.
Have you listened through that album yet?
I have.
I have too.
Yeah, I like it
times.
a lot. I like it a lot. They've actually talked a lot about how heavily influenced by David Bowie it was. And so it's kind of like their modern love, where there's some weird, it seemingly is weird, the way that they've tried to do it. But boy, it really works for me. I really enjoyed it. So,
have you seen the interview where he talks about getting the email from David Bowie?
No.
Dave Grohl. You got to look. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, do that.
It is fantastic.
That's crazy.
I think he's talking to Jimmy Fallon and is talking about how he got this email from David Bowie out of the blue, and he's like, didn't believe it was from him.
That's really funny.
And yeah.
That has to be a surreal moment, right?
Right. Especially for somebody like Dave, who, like, he's
ascended.
Legit. Yeah, he's big time.
Yeah,
that's a good list, man. You need somebody to go with you. Let me know.
Yeah, that'll happen. There's no question about that.
I so want to see. I don't know if you're listening to him or not. St. Paul and the Broken Bones.
Yeah, I do listen to them,
dude. That last the album with Flow with it on it. I listen to that song maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Yep,
so good, and I like a lot of their other stuff. But his voice reminds me of Otis Redding. And which brings me back to like what my mom was raising me on. Yeah, so that's like if I had to go, that's one. I almost picked them up in Fort Collins when I was out visiting Maddie.
Right.
They were going to be in Denver like that night, and we just had too much. We couldn't make it to the show.
Yeah, that's one of those ones like, I can't remember what it was, but there was a show, and I got into this band, and I was like, oh, let's see when they're going to be there. And they had literally like, you're either going to be there like 2 days later, or they had just been there 2 days before. And I was like, there it is. That was my window, and now I can't go, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life,
Yeah, that's good.
But I don't know that I'm clamoring to see bigger acts. I mean, Foo Fighters is probably the exception to that. I mean, look, and if Springsteen tours, I'm in. I'm going again. Yeah. But it's more of these smaller bands, like I would love to see Lone Bellow, and I'd love to see Black Pumas and St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Like those people, to me, like I'm pretty psyched about that. I'd like to see maybe like Death Cab. I've not seen Death Cab. Ben Gibbard to me is like just a genius and a guy that just plug and play. Like he can just do whatever.
Well, if we ever get a chance to go see Death Cab, we have to let my friend Mike know, because he's high school buddies with their tour manager.
No kidding.
Trey. And
so
anytime they were in town when Mike was living in Waverly, he would say, hey, we're going to Columbus to go see Death Cab.
The other one that I will probably always go see, because there's just a great family connection there. 21 Pilots, because Grace and Eliza got me turned into them. I bought them tickets, and now we've seen them 3 times.
Yeah.
And they're tremendous live, just creative and innovative guys, and just genuinely fun people to watch play music. So,
and I love going to shows with my kids.
Yeah.
And watching how their music taste changed over the years and what they like to listen to. And, I've sat through a few really bad concerts with them.
Yeah.
But I remember when Maddie was probably a sophomore in high school, she had a soccer tournament, and we left the tournament game on Friday night and went to the Newport and went to see Switchfoot.
Nice.
And we got there kind of late because of her soccer game, and I got her in right behind the sound guy, and I said, listen, this might not be the perfect place to watch, but you will never listen to a concert any better than from front of house.
Yep.
And I will never forget having that moment with her, watching, at that time, her favorite band.
Yeah.
John Foreman was just like way up there on the list.
Yeah.
And we got to share that. So,
yeah. I am grateful that the last concert that I saw before the pandemic hit was Black Keys.
Because he wanted me to go to that, and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I like their stuff. I just, man, I don't know why I didn't go to that show.
And it was the show itself to me felt a little flat, not because of the content and not because they're not tremendously talented guys. It felt like a label show, not a band show, if I can say that. And, you know, look, guys, if you're listening right now, no offense. I mean, I love you guys. I'll go see you again, but maybe you could talk about it someday. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
What was really going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that, you know, they pumped out a couple albums in a row, and they said that Turn Blue was like the one that they just struggled with, and they really felt like they took their time with it, with Let's Rock. But it just, for whatever reason, for me, like I took my daughter and her boyfriend, and they loved it. I mean, you know, Grace was freaking out the whole show. So, you know, maybe it's the old grizzled concert veteran, seen him a couple times, that doesn't really care anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
the old guy.
That's right.
So
what's the future look like for Mike Throne?
Well, I think millionaires in my my future. No, so I think, you know, I look at it from two different perspectives. I mean, I'm the type of person I never want to stop growing, and I don't want to stop learning. So, it's not like I'm going to go get an MBA or, you know, go to seminary or something. But I want to keep doing that. I'm lucky that I got kids, so I'm going to learn. You know how this goes. Like, you're a tech guy, so you would probably learn a lot of these things. But like, I look, you know, somebody tells me, oh, you know, like about a year ago, nobody really talked about TikTok. And then my kids were using TikTok, and now it's a thing, right?
Right.
So like, you learn things because your kids are around it and they're teaching you as you go.
Sure.
So I want to keep learning. I want to keep doing. I am going to retire at some point in time. That's years away from now. But you know, after I'm done and I'm retired, I would like to still be a contributor in the community and keep pushing for the things that move us forward. I think that's the great thing about the last 10 years, is that we've learned to focus on the things that move forward and not just the things that people want to be familiar with. And so, you know, those things I think are going to sustain us moving forward. For me, it's really about, can I still be effective at what I do? And that'll determine what the next 5 years are. You know, I think, my wife has a business idea that she wants to try. And so, we're going to put some heavy emphasis on that this year, and hopefully, you know, grow that, down the road. And, you know, maybe 5 years from now, we'll be sitting here saying, you know, we grew that into something, and now it's time for the next challenge. I'm always going to be looking for a challenge. You know, when I came to the chamber, people said, well, these things are still sitting out there. And I pushed to just get resolution for those things. We did that. And then it was like, well, then how do we kickstart the second phase of the revitalization? And we did that. So, and then pandemic hit. So we got to recover from that. But I think once we've recovered from the shock of that, it's going to be time to let's go. You know, let's get going.
That's great.
Did I answer the question? I'm not sure I answered the question.
No, yeah, you did. You kind of gave me some insight on.
Okay.
Like, you have some goals out there. I have some goals out there too. Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like, YouTube has become kind of craziness for me because I can learn so much.
Yeah.
Doing some projects at work right now, doing some programming that I've never done, and so I'm relying on YouTube to teach me. I learned to play guitar through YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's
maybe I could learn that way.
Yeah, it's not too late.
I tried to learn the harmonica that way. It didn't really work out for me. I've figured this out about myself. I don't possess the passion that it takes to learn an instrument, because you got to kind of be obsessed with it, at least at the beginning. And I don't think I have that.
Yeah, I I picked up the guitar when I was 12.
Okay.
It lasted about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
My dad got frustrated and said, "You're not even practicing. I'm done."
Right.
And I always piddled on the drums. I was in marching band, so I obsessed a little bit about them. But when I decided to pick up the guitar, I had a goal in mind. I knew I was supposed to be playing at church, leading worship.
Okay.
It became a calling, and so like the obsession with that, I would say, that's exactly what has to happen.
Yeah. Well,
not just falling in love with the instrument; it's just like this desire to pour into it.
Yeah, and I think, that touches really on something that I think is a big deal for me, which is whatever you're doing, it kind of has to be an obsession for you at a certain point. Like I got obsessed about the community because I was not supposed to be here. Yeah. And so if at some point in time you sit down and you go, well, I'm here, then how do I contribute? How do I make it better? And if I'm not doing that, then why the heck am I even here?
Right.
So to me, that's the calling part of that is a big deal. So.
Yeah. And I think that for you to be successful at anything, not just a music instrument, at anything, there's got to be some level of being obsessed with learning and growing that, and it becoming just a part of you, like an appendage. And the only way it does that is by just living with it and breathing it.
And you got to nurture it, right? I mean, like you can't learn to play the guitar and then put it away for a year and then expect to be where you were the year before.
Right.
You got to keep doing it, keep honing those skills. I know in watching your progress as a musician and then even as a vocalist, you've told me about certain times where you're like, I'm growing this in my vocal skills. I'm growing this in me as a guitarist or, songwriter or whatever. Those are the things that you have to do. I mean, when I started to see the most growth in myself as an editor was when I said, the stuff that we do has to make a difference. So we're not just going to keep going and doing the meeting story. We're going to attack the issues. And that changed everything.
Right.
That's when it became a calling and became an obsession.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot to say for that.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford.
But I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it already feels like home. Feels like home. Feels like